welcome back to another episode of the Bites and Bytes Podcast. I'm your host, Kristin Demoranville, and today's conversation is a special one. It's also airing on the Impact Farming Show with my guest, Tracy. So if you're just joining us from her audience, welcome. We're also glad you're here. Tracy is a cattle rancher, ag business leader, and the host of the Impact Farming Show. In this episode, we're going to talk about what it really takes to run a ranch today. Everything from land pressure and succession planning to the rise of smart tech, digital risk, and what happens when ranchers are left out of those conversations. This is a sister episode between our shows, and it's one I hope sparks more of these kind of cross-sector conversations. If you care about food systems resilience or just want to hear what's really going on behind the ranch gate, this episode is for you. Let's jump in. Awesome. I absolutely love the fact that I have Tracy on today. But before we jump into all introductions and all the fun things, favorite food and favorite food memory, please.
Favorite food, steak and baked potato, asparagus. That's my favorite food. Favorite food memory, if you want that right away, goes right in line, was actually my wedding. I had a very small wedding, tent wedding on my farm here in Canada. Beautiful. It was a gorgeous hot day. I had a gentleman come in and cater it, and it was beef tenderloin, and we had some potatoes and some vegetables, the most amazing appetizers before, and then cheesecake after. But literally, and not because it was my wedding and I was on some kind of like wedding high, that beef tenderloin that he cooked, he's a chef. It was the most amazing meal of my life on my wedding. I didn't even know how good of a chef he was. So that's my best food memory ever.
Was it local beef as well?
I don't know. I didn't even ask. Good beef farmer I am, right? It's good beef and it tastes great. I don't care. Yep.
That's great. I've never had someone say steak and potatoes and asparagus. I've never had someone say that. They always are listing crazy dishes from all over the place, but you know what? You can't really beat a good steak, you know?
No.
But yeah, steak is great. And I actually just found a local butcher shop recently where I'm at. So I'm stoked. Yes. And the food has been fantastic. So hopefully I can get a steak maybe this week. We'll see. I will think of you when I have it.
I am very fortunate, a beef farmer. So we have our own beef. Actually, to be honest, we do buy from the store a lot, but beef is life, I tell you. I'll promote my product.
That's great. Since you already told us you're a beef farmer, but let's go through introductions. So go ahead, Tracy.
Okay. So I am the owner, CEO of Farm Marketer, one of the largest independent egg media companies in Canada, and host of the Impact Farming Show, video podcast show for farmers, North American wide, actually worldwide listeners. And we are video podcasts weekly, and we cover slogan, the people and ideas that'll impact your farming operation. But really, when it comes down to it, is business. I focus in on business a lot. I love that. That's my jam, where agriculture and the business subjects meet, and kind of just to give those farmers the gold nuggets of ideas or people that are important to their farming operation. So that's me. And I'm a beef farmer, Southeastern Manitoba, Canada, with my husband, and I absolutely love it.
And Tracy and I have actually done a couple episodes on her show, so that's how we met. And for those that are listening on her side of the house, I'm Kristin Demoranville. I am the host of Bites and Bytes Podcast. I'm also the CEO of Anzen OT and Anzen Sage, a cybersecurity firm that's focused on food and agriculture, zoos and aquariums, and also an operational technology management SaaS tool. So that's kind of me. We kind of meet in this great place because she talks about business and I talk about, cybersecurity. So obviously we're part of that world, and that's what happens. So, and Tracy's a love. So if you haven't seen her show, I'll be honest, go see it because she's got such great information. I learn a lot by watching your show, and I'm a listener and I'm a watcher. So it sounds creepy. I'm not a watcher, but you know what I mean? I'm a fan.
I'll take that. As a video person, it's so neat when you hear people and meet people that watch your show, right?
It's so amazing, actually. Yeah.
It's weird because you just see the numbers and the metrics, and they're not real people. And then when you go out and they're like, hey, that episode, I'm like, real people do watch this, right? It's just a little weird. Not that I'm some big celebrity or anything, but it's kind of weird, right? How that happened.
It's weird. And then also to hear people talking about your show or talking about your show on social media that you're not necessarily attached to, or that's been weird. Or having fan people moments and conferences, people are like, hey, and you're like, hey, and then I'm just like, ah. don't know how to respond to you.
That's
great.
Different. And I've done that. Well, you think of that, Kristin, sorry to jump in there real quick, but you think of any podcast that you listen to, you almost develop a one-sided relationship with that person, because if you love their podcast, you listen to them. And I mean, I'm more business, not as much personal, but some of the people I listen to, I just love. And then I would probably go up to them and be like, hey, thinking like they know me, but they don't. Right? As a listener, you just know your podcaster or your YouTuber so well. It's a neat world we live in.
It really is. And I've met some of the podcasting teams that are in the cybersecurity world and been on their shows. And it's been an absolute honor to continue to promote and help their shows grow as much as they do for mine. And it's such an interesting world, podcasting world. It's really a really strange niche area. And then on top of niches with everybody's stuff. And I'm actually really been enjoying it after the year or whatever I've been doing this. And you're right, though. It's funny because when you see the numbers, you're just like, wait a minute. But then I think to myself, awesome, because this is the conversations we want to be having with people around the world, because you're global just as much as I am. Yeah, it's really amazing. I couldn't ask for a better platform or community to work with at this point. But anyways, beef farming. How did we get there, Tracy? I've actually always wanted to ask you this. How did you get into this world?
Funny. So my parents both grew up on farms, and then my dad's family farm kind of split when he was younger, so it wasn't there. But I grew up going to my grandparents' farm. Mm-hmm. My dad was a trucker, so he was often on the road. My mom would pack us up Fridays. We'd go out to the farm for the weekend and hang out with my grandparents on the farm. And little Tracy, she's like, when I grow up, I'm going to be a farmer, because I loved the farm so much. Right? So needless to say, life goes on. I didn't grow up on a farm. I grew up on an acreage, unfortunately. Fortunately, good life. But I was always trying to map out horse pens and fences on my parents' yard, because we had an acre or two and I was going to get a horse and a cow when I was a kid, right? I'm like, I'm doing this. So I peg out their yard and they're like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm seeing where my horse fence, I've never talked about this. I'm seeing where my horse fence can go. And they're like, yeah, no, they both came from a farm. They didn't want that, right? In 1 acre, their lawn. I'm a persistent child. Not persistent enough. I didn't get it. But needless to say, that was kind of the tone that was set for my life. And I loved it. That was a big part of growing up. And in my mind, I said, I'm going to be a beef farmer with a horse when I grow up. And of all things random, ended up meeting my husband young. I was 16. We ended up meeting through my best friend, blah, blah, blah. And then we've been together ever since. And he came from a beef farm, actually, just down the road from where we are. He grew up on a beef farm, and we didn't actually start beef farming till probably about 17 years ago, right? Mm-hmm. When BSC hit. Oh my gosh, Kristin, talk about farming dreams crushed. We were just working up, you're young, right? And you're working and doing your thing.
And you're excited and you're like, yay, we're doing this.
We're about to buy some cattle. BSC hit. And we're like, well, there goes our farming dreams. And then I think it took quite a few years after for that to kind of sort out. I mean, that took a long time, but once things actually started opening up, we bought our first 8 Black Angus cows and had them at his parents' farm. And then we just grew our farm from there. And very quick, then Anthony went full time. We bought our own land, all our own tractors. So we farm with his parents, but not really. We have all our own, but we make hay with his parents and kind of help out that way. So yeah, that's my farming story that I've never actually told anybody.
And you got your horse.
And I got my horse. Well, I didn't want to bring that up. Unfortunately, passed away.
Sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. I just had one horse. He was such a gentleman, such a beautiful guy. And he was old already. So he lived a good long life and he passed away. And I haven't bought a new one because one, he's amazing. And you don't want to try and top that. Horses are a ton of work. They look glorious. The idea sounds nice. A ton of work. I said, if I ever lived in California with sun, predictable weather, no bugs, I would buy a horse again. But up here, season's short, bugs are bad, weather's all over, and I'm busy, right? I'm too busy for that. So anyways, I had a beautiful horse. I still have many cows and enjoy the farming life.
So you ranch with tractors then, right? So 4-wheelers and things like that, or?
Yeah, totally. My husband, there's some diehards that they're horse people. They'll do the going out to rope the cattle. But Anthony's like, we have quads. It's faster. You hop on a quad It's like, no way. And we also, to be fair, we don't live in a terrain like a mountain or hilly valley where you need a horse. Like some different areas, when you start getting into dangerous terrain, like your quad will flip, right?
Yeah, of course.
You're going down, and some places you can't reach. So there you need horses. Here where I can watch my dog run away for miles. So anyways.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I didn't know that about that area. So thank you. I feel educated for that moment. So I want to be forthcoming. I actually finally just finished Yellowstone. No spoilers for everybody on the back end. I have a love-hate of that show. Like, I love the cinematography of the wide angle shots. And I love that they're bringing, ranching into like a public light and how hard it can be. Granted, it's extreme and there's lots of murder and bad stuff. Right. But it's it's creating this like lifestyle fantasy of what ranching is and what it isn't. And I'm a little frustrated with it because they make it look like it just happens. And it's so much more than that, especially if you are doing it with horses. Even if you are doing it with quads, you still have to fuel them and service them and do all these things, right? And people don't understand that it's not a multi-billion-dollar ranch. It might be, but you're not going to necessarily make that money. It's about breaking even and hopefully bringing in a little revenue. It's more of the love of what you do rather than like whatever they were doing, like the yuppie richness of it or whatever. And I've talked to other farmers and they're like, that show sucks. And I'm like, it's pretty. It's a pretty show. I can appreciate it for that aspect, but watching it has definitely made me shake my head too many times. Like, oh no, that would not happen. Nope, that's definitely not how that goes down. Is there anything like that you feel like you're constantly combating? And even when you're talking to your guests about just the disinformation and misinformation of what it means to be a farmer?
Well, totally. Oh my gosh, all the time. Like Yellowstone, I liked it too. There was good drama. Nice scenery, like good plot line, right? A lot of drama. We don't have a train station, needless to say.
Good, I'm glad.
Yeah, not that kind of ranch. But, it is good. There's pros and cons to anything, right? Some shows I've watched are so unrealistic, I'd be yelling at the TV. I mean, there was a few times they did a fairly good job of portraying a lot of stuff, like quite accurate. The one thing I really like about that is they focus on some of the challenges, but from my aspect is how much pressure farmers are under for the land grab wise, how people are coming in and taking up land, and then they're moving right beside farms and saying, your farm stinks, get out of here. It's like, yeah, no, we've been here for hundreds of years. Like, that's a huge pressure. And then people moving out of the city, great, love it, enjoy your country life, but you're moving to the country. We didn't move to the city, right? So to me, I like that it's showing a lot of the big developers and what's happening, and farmers are getting pushed out. Just for the land-based aspect, we're also the largest farm real estate website in Canada, just as a side note. So the land portion interests me, but also the fact that not only are they pushing us out, they're pushing us out financially. Yeah. When you look at a lot of the resort areas or just outside of cities, a lot of those developers come in and they see a quarter of land and they know what they can do to that quarter of land. And that quarter of land is worth 10 million or 20 million to them. Well, there ain't no farmer paying 20 million because that quarter is worth 800,000. Pencil that in is just like tight. And it's like, if it's a bad grain year, we can't afford that payment. So for me, I like that they were kind of shining a light on the challenges and them moving in on farmers. I think they did a good job that way. But yeah, and just generally, I mean, so much in the world that we live in. And again, both sides, you can't help but get controversial, but so many people thinking that our food system isn't safe. Like, I'm in a health store and randomly talking to a lady, and somehow we get into the fact that I'm a beef farmer. She's like, oh, well, that's good. You know where your food's from. And you get that typical, like, the store isn't safe. And I don't like that. And I actually looked at her because we were out of farm beef. Like, we don't have our own beef a lot of the times. And I said, I buy from Superstore just the same as you. She's like, you eat and it's safe? I'm like, absolutely. We have such a robust, but I said, our food system by and large is so safe, effective, affordable. We eat there too. I don't snub the store. We'll beef for there. We're good. So anyways, you would know that.
You're also supporting other cattle operators as well by buying beef in the store. I think people don't understand how distribution works and where all this meat is coming from and which directions and which countries. And it's just one big supply chain. It's a lot of little chains ending up into one big grocery store. It just all depends on the grocer. And then the grocer is the one that sets the price, not the rancher. Then none of those people said that. It's the grocer that sets the price. So that's what becomes frustrating when people start complaining about price. It's you don't have control over that, Tracy. So, I mean, you'd be happy to feed everybody. I'm sure you would because you're just such a great person. But ultimately, you're trying to make money, but you don't set that price. And that's what bothers me is when people start complaining about, the price of meat these days, and you're kind of like, well, yeah, because look at all the stuff we have to do and look how far the meat has to travel and where it has to be housed and all these other things. I mean, and then heaven forbid a cyber attack hits and then you got to halt the whole meat system like it did with JBS. People go without because they can't get meat to the grocer because there's no warehouse storage or they can't slaughter fast enough. And then there's human life issues because now you have cattle that's stressed out and where are you going to put it? What's happening? And then you have to slaughter faster. And we all know that slaughterhouses and factories that produce are really difficult to work in anyways, because it's the safety issues. So now you're going to speed up production and people are going to lose digits. When I pick up a pack of meat in the grocery store, there's gratitude that happens now for me differently than when I was younger, obviously, because I'm in this industry so heavily now that it's almost like a silent thank you. Thank you. Thank a farmer. Just thank a farmer. I mean, don't be weird about it, but thank a farmer, But yeah, I think the thing on that show that bothered me was the fact that they always had a cell phone signal. And I was like, there's no way. There's no way. And also there was always a helicopter or plane available at all times. And I was like, no, that's not how this works. Or, other silly things that are kind of along that line. But generally speaking, I do love that there are dramas that are out there. They're showing a different side of life to people who probably have never stepped foot into the country. Or if they have, they've only flown over it or driven through it without much acknowledgement of what it is. And something you said, and it hurts my heart because we were talking about this before we hit record, is these land developers. It's much more effective to sell your farmland these days than it is to keep your farm on it. And that makes my heart hurt so much because we need a lot more first-gen farmers. We need people to come in and start doing this for the first time because we're running out of farmers, literally. In all countries, this isn't just a US problem or a Canadian problem, it's a global issue. And it bothers me that we can just buy it out and then a development could get put up. And granted, I'm one of those people that bought a house on a development that used to be cattle land.
That's okay.
Do I feel some type of way? Yeah, a little bit. But at the same time as I know that family is probably fine. That makes me feel okay. But this is happening more and more and more. How much land can we possibly give up until we can't feed our populations? What do we need to raise? This is where lab meat starts to become questionable. You're like, well, then we'd have to have lab grown meat because we're not going to have enough cattle out there. No. But then, and then of course, everybody gets a little weirded out by that. I also get weirded out by that. It's a strange thing. No. But it's so disheartening, right? Like the fact that we've reached this part, and I'm hoping that we'll reach a stability with it. And I don't know though, because of all the things that are happening in the world right now, farmers have their backs against the wall in so many ways differently than they did 10 years ago. Just taking a quick moment to thank you for tuning in to the Bites and Bytes podcast. If you're enjoying this episode, don't forget to like, comment, and share the show with others. It really helps us reach more people who want smart conversations without all the fluff. This conversation is also part of a special sister episode, Tracy Brunet, host of the Impact Farming Show. If you're not already subscribed to her podcast, go check it out. She brings a powerful conversation to the ag community week after week. You'll find the link in our show notes. And if you've got a topic you want me to cover, a guest you love to hear from, or questions about something you've already discussed on the show, I'd love to hear from you. Feedback drives the show, and your ideas are always welcome. Just drop me an email at kristin@anzinsage.com. Now back to the episode.
Business. Farmers need this.
It's fascinating. Yeah. I think it's fascinating too.
There's 100 reasons, but the real reason I started, if you get down to the heart of Tracy's heart, is transition planning and lack of has negatively affected me personally, times two. And I see it with not like my in-laws, we did our own thing, but in my family, I've lost aunts, uncles, cousins, so many people because of it. So that's my why. But looping around to what we're saying here and the pressure and the cost of farmland, it is, well, can I just name it? Impossible to start a farm at land prices the way it is unless you're coming in through an existing family operation. And then even at that, here's where I'm concerned. I am very much for the farm life. It's a beautiful way of life. Independent farmers are options in the food system. Mm-hmm. Not that I'm against big corporations because we need it to work, right? But the more and more pressure that's put on farmers, the less and less profitable it is for people to get in. Nobody wants the stress. Nobody wants the chaotic markets when you could just go get a job and live a comfortable life, right? Without the like, oh, wow, we lost 300,000 this year. What are we going to do? Like, it's insane. And I don't even want to talk about what's going on. Well, we will figure a speech about what's going on right now. So where I'm looping around to in this pressure, especially because of the pandemic and people moving out, we now have a whole new pressure of everybody that wants to live the country life, that may work from home, may commute into the city, have big wages, can afford big mortgages. And now we're competing for land with those people, adds more pressure to our area. And what I'm very concerned about for multiple reasons is we're losing the family farm very quickly. And cost of land is a big one. And there's many, many other factors, but that is near and dear to my heart because how do you transition plan? Mm-hmm. That's one angle. But within the whole family farm operation, we now have a situation where family farms had multiple children. One would stay and farm. That was their passion. They stayed. The others would go get careers. They don't care about the farm or there wasn't enough opportunity. They go do their thing. The kid that stays, that is what they're invested in. And they need the land. They need all the production to make it happen. But here's the thing. Land is so expensive. It's a huge inheritance. And now, and I don't like the subject of inheritance because I'm not a give me parent kind of gal. Like I hate it. Like I'm building my way in life. But when it comes down to the practicality, the farm child needs all of that to make the farm go and make the farm live. But here's a double-edged sword. Land values are so high. The non-farming children are saying, wait a minute, why does farming Bobby or brother get the whole farm when mom and dad pass away and we get what, nothing, like pittance? I'm not saying that's wrong because fair is fair, but you can't split a farming pie 4 ways and keep the farm. So to me, it breaks my heart because from the external, the land pressure, from the economics and from within the family farm. Oh my goodness, if we can keep family farms going another decade, holy Dinah, it's a bit of a magic. And that's why I'm trying so hard to work on our show. And that's why I'm kind of really focusing in. Anyways, long tangent, but I think that
it's real. And I think everybody who's listening needs to understand that if they don't already, if they aren't part of that world, what it means to, because it would be really easy to sell the family farm off and split it by 4, right? That would be but the idea of keeping it in the family and understanding that was the wishes of your family for generations, just like Yellowstone as an example, whatever it was, 170 years, that to me that's important. If that's something that wants to continue on, if there is a family member who's going to stand up and do it. But I can also understand people wanting their piece of the pie, but there needs to be a different way about it. And so I hope that it's not messy. I've experienced some really bad succession planning with external family members and watching it just tear people up. And it's so avoidable. It feels avoidable. Like, you know, just planning and pre-thinking ahead and all that stuff. And then to combat the land issue, and then you have your family succession planning issues. And then you have global climate change, which is clearly messing farming up big time. And then you've got all of like the various governments doing various other weird things all of the time and changing every 5 seconds. Somebody sneezes and it seems like it's changed. And then you have, cybersecurity and your farm gets hit with an attack. And now what? What are you going to do?
So let me jump in there and be co-host here and ask you. So for the benefit of our audience, in case they haven't caught the previous episodes with you, what do you do and how in the world did you get into this? Because like most of us, even farmers, I guess just like the consumer takes for granted the farmer, we take for granted the food system and how it all just works and cybersecurity. Yeah. Who thinks of this? So tell me.
So I actually originally had gotten my college degree in environmental management. So I was always really privy to the natural world in general. It was kind of always something that was in me. And then I became a bit of a zoo junkie. I volunteered at a bunch of zoos and things like that. So like I worked at the commissary and then I worked with gorillas and a few other things. So like I have this like natural cycle looking systems thinking already in me. And as I was going through my technology and cybersecurity side of my career, I ended up at a food manufacturer, both finished ingredients both finished product and ingredients. And I really got to know firsthand operational technology and what it meant to work in production and what production was and understand food safety and quality in a different way. Because when you're working enterprise cybersecurity and other places, you don't necessarily touch the operational side. But at that place, it was pretty much everybody did everything. So I was working in this operational space while I was still doing cybersecurity. So for me, it just became really organic. I just saw it as one big system and how we needed to work together. But I started to see where cybersecurity, because all of that technology that flowed over the product, it was part of food safety culture, really, because any of the technology that touched the food automatically to me meant it needed to be viewed differently in terms of food safety and quality, because if something happened with the equipment, whether it was a cyber event or just human tampering or whatever, that potentially could lead to a foodborne illness. So it got me thinking, and I kind of kept it in the back of my head. And I didn't say anything at the time because I didn't. I don't know, maybe because I just was in that part of my career. I left the food company and I actually went to work for a large electronics manufacturer. And I got to tour around the world and experience different cultures inside of these different types of factories. Granted, they were electronics and semiconductor, but a factory is a factory for the most part. Stuff comes in, something happens to it, and it goes out, And I ended up going through the consulting world of cybersecurity, and that's kind of what you do after you get out of industry in general. And I started really seeing different consumer product goods, CPGs, and different other things from an insider's lens, and started to realize that we still have this like disconnect with food safety and goods, whether it's touching our body or pets are eating it or whatever, or it's feed for animals on the farm. And I'd always been connected to farms in some way. I was really lucky where I grew up. We still had a lot of family farms around where I grew up in Massachusetts, which is saying a lot because Massachusetts is like this big. And I was riding horses when I was younger. So you and I share the horse thing.
Oh, nice. Right.
Yeah, I'm really grateful that I know how to ride a horse. And I think it's a life skill everybody needs, actually.
Yeah.
But because it teaches you a lot about respect in general and coordination and working with others and teamwork, because that animal's going to do whatever it wants anyways. But so I was in the consulting side of the house for a bit, and I really started to see this disconnect and connection with food and the whole global food system and how nobody was talking about it. And nobody was talking about agriculture. And everybody's trying to save agriculture with smart farming and precision farming, which is great. But you can't do any of that without technology because it's technology driven. It's all about data. So I thought, well, what are we doing? And then I met a few people that we got chatting about it on the food safety side. And all of a sudden it was like, I'll tell you, Tracy, it was like a lightning bolt, like hit me in the head. And I was like, wait a minute. Why is nobody doing anything about this? And also, why isn't food and agriculture part of the critical sector in the United States, which they didn't add it till 2020? And I was like, what is happening? And it was sort of like I lifted the curtain, if you will, and all of a sudden, like all these creepy things came at me. And I was like, oh no, we got to do something. So I left the consulting world and I was like, I'm just going to start my own firm. I'm going to start talking about this. I'm going to start being loud about it. Started the podcast. I started my security firm. I have the security product that works alongside this. So it was one of those, I organically let it happen and I just trusted my gut and did it. And I really love it. And now I'm in different positions where I can help bring awareness to things like agroterrorism and ecoterrorism and what that means for the farming communities. What does cybersecurity mean for a farmer? What do they actually need to know? And what can they kind of like not really pay too much attention to at present? What does it mean to put more smart technology on your farm for yourself, for your family? What kind of exposure do you have? What's your responsibility for it? Who do you call when something happens? How do you report if something happens? If it affects you, maybe it will affect your parent company if you're selling to, one of the big conglomerates. Like chickens, for example, are monitored beyond monitor when it comes to IoT tech. Everybody knows everything about a chicken in 3 seconds just from the data that's coming from them. And that could be exploited or something can happen. So what happens when that happens? Is there protocols in place? Are you responsible? Is the parent company responsible? So there's all these questions. And then how do farmers deal with insurance for cyber? Do they have it or not? I mean, can they get it? Should they not get it? I don't know. It's all these personal questions. So I really started having like these deeper dive conversations. I started writing a lot, obviously the podcast, those things like that. And it's become this real passion for me on top of the fact that it's sort of, I kind of was going that way anyways. At some point in my career, it was leading back to the roots of food and ag in a way that I didn't expect. I grew up, like I said, in a small town that still had family farms. But I come from a long line of firefighters, including my great uncle built fire trucks. So the civil service type betterment of humanity has always been in me, and it had been bred into our family line. So I feel like this is my way of giving back because I never wanted to do firefighting. That was not my journey, but I think that's how I really got into it. And in terms of working in technology and cybersecurity, honestly, I crash landed sideways. So I think that's how a lot of us did pre-internet, and then just kept going and to the point where I'm at now. And I'm really grateful because I work in the operational technology side of the house and industrial control systems. So we're thinking, Columbines and production lines and any equipment like that, anything that touches a human and it's internet based. So cyber physical is my favorite place to be. I'm also fine with doing like people's personal computers. That's fine. But my jam is, really dealing with the actual technology that's helping to feed, sustain, or even entertain us with zoos. So that is my story in a small little bit of time.
That's interesting. That is so interesting. And I'm going to keep on asking you a few questions now. In our previous episodes, and for our show, I'll link them in the show notes so that you guys can go back and listen. It's fascinating. And I guess we are guilty of doing that. Just like farmers were frustrated about the consumer and they don't get it. Literally, when I spoke to you in those 2 episodes, I like to think I'm an intelligent, well-read person. At least I try to be. I'm like, what are we even talking about? I didn't even think about half of these things. And funny enough, I think when we released, was it our first or second episode? Literally the week later, 1 or 2 big cyber things happened in Canadian agriculture.
Yeah, it was the dairies. Yeah.
Yeah, the dairies, I think the co-op fuel, and was it the solar system?
The solar flares that knocked out the GPS during harvest. Yes. Even though that wasn't a cyber incident, it's still an indicator of what can happen. It still shows what technology what can happen with tech. It
was funny too, because even when we were talking, for me, it was still a little bit away, like out of my mind, and still a little like, cyber. And then when we released that episode, the week later it hit, I'm like, oh dear. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, our time looks suspicious here with this episode. But for farmers in our audience, I mean, your world's going to know your world. But can you list some of the things that have happened or are happening that we actually don't even hear about? Because there's a lot that goes on that just goes on and it's fixed and we all carry on. The beauty of our system, right?
Yeah, I think the one that and I'll tell you about one that's kind of like caught me recently because I didn't even know about it. I know the dairy industry has been getting hit really hard all over the world, but it happened in Switzerland. A cyber attack hit. It was a ransomware attack, and the farmer decided not to pay the ransom, which is fine. You can decide to do that or not. Either way, your data is still going to be a mess. And what happened was they got into the system, the industrial control system that was for milking the cows. And what ended up happening was the data was actually so corrupted that they were not able to find and be able to tell the data on a particular cow that was pregnant. And because of that, they lost only that cow, and they also lost the calf because she went into labor early and they didn't know because the systems were not alerting them. And obviously that's devastating when it happens, because not only have you lost the cow, you've lost a calf. And there's so much money that goes into just that alone. Not only the vet bills, but like the raising and the food and all these things. And also the cow itself. I mean, heaven's sakes, they're not cheap. Yes. And also the life, because that's devastating, because you don't want to see animals die. Like that's not, you are raising them to become food, but ultimately you care about their well-being. So we have the mental health issues. We have the cyber attack that happened. And then it didn't just happen on that one farm. It actually happened in that whole like co-op area, like that whole region got hit. And I was like, why are we talking about this? And it was like one of those moments where you're going to pull your hair out and just be like, this is serious. These are small farmers in the middle of Switzerland, of all places, right? You wouldn't think that would be a center of attack area, vector area. And yet it's happening because people are trying to hit places that are vulnerable. I had someone tell me recently, let me correct myself. I read an article recently, and I wasn't going to talk about this, but I'll talk about it now, Tracy, because it's you, where they said that the food industry is weak. What they really mean to say is the food industry is vulnerable because they are fragile in their cybersecurity posture. It's not there, or it's really fragile in general. But to say that something is weak like that means you don't have an understanding of the industry at all, let alone thinking about it from the whole perspective of the whole supply chain, right? Because what something happens over here, whether it's the dairy industry or not, it's going to affect other things in other places, because that hacker now knows that the dairy industry is vulnerable. They're going to go after the beef industry. Beef industry's already been hit hard. We already talked about JBS.
Yeah.
That already proves that that's a vulnerable situation. So what are we going to do about it? So of course, farmers and everybody else are going to be like, oh my God, what's happening? How do we deal with this? And then nobody knows, because nobody's put their hand up to say, this is something I do, or I can help you. It's more of these, big consulting firms coming in. They say, for some astronomical amount of money, we'll fix it for you. Okay. Right. If that's what you want to do, great. But ultimately, I think it comes down to community. And this is why I love the industry in general, Tracy, is you all talk to each other. You all talk to each other. And there's a community built and there's trust there, right? And you got to earn your way into it. And I think that the fact that people are starting to talk about, I heard about this happening, this breach, this situation, this cybersecurity thing. Like, what do you think about it? That fills me up, because that means that people are starting to recognize that, oh, this is something I need to start paying attention to among the 50 million other things I got to worry about every day. And I did just mention it briefly, but I think a lot of people don't realize that between like the land, the inheritance, the cyber attacks, the other issues, environmental, market prices, the whole thing, just the raising of animals in general is a very hard life, very fulfilling life. But the mental toll it takes on you to deal with all these crises at once, to know that you're $300,000 in the hole, and the only way to continue on farming is to mortgage the house for the third time or whatever it was. And I don't think people realize how amazing it is that we can just walk into the grocery store and get whatever we want without any fuss, without realizing the amount of anguish and hard work that goes into what we do. So for me, as a cybersecurity professional in this space, I feel a sense of privilege of just being allowed in to make sure that we can continue to have the oblivious lifestyle that we have around us, right? This ignorance is bliss, right? And also make sure some of the pressure comes off the farmers, because why should you have to worry about cyber attacks? This is like the last thing you should be worrying about, right?
Yeah.
But because we keep throwing more tech, and ag tech has become quite popular, and I know you've had a few people on your show talking about ag tech as well as mine. What are you doing to secure that? That's my first question. Well, whatever said, or when do your updates happen? Are they happening via satellite? Do people really need to have autonomous tractors? I mean, is your farm working? Do you really need to have XYZ? Would a wheelbarrow be okay? Like, can you still do it manually? Can you roll back if you need to? Like, all these questions, right? And I think that's, for me, when you talk about business, I think about business continuity. How can we keep your farm operating and keep your workers safe while in the middle of some kind of crisis, whether it's cyber or cyber physical or whatever is going on?
Yeah.
And if people cannot answer those questions, we've got to have a deeper conversation. And it's not about the shame that you're not doing enough. It's not about the shame of not knowing. It's not about any of that crap. I don't care. The hackers will exploit those feelings anyways. I'm here to make sure that you can actually continue to feed your family, not have to mortgage your house again, and make sure that you can get pushed through it. I always say we're kind of like insurance. You don't necessarily want to pay for us, but you're happy when you did, So it's those kind of feelings that I have around it. But yeah, that dairy one in Switzerland really threw me off, Tracy. I was like, what the heck? I was like, now we have cows dying? Like, no, I'm not okay. Like, this is not okay. None of this is okay, because that was avoidable. That was an avoidable situation. And I'm not mad at the dairy farmer. They don't know what they don't know. How are you going to know when you buy something? It's not like you're going to necessarily read the fine print of, make sure you secure your internet connection. Why would they know that? Why would they know that?
Kristin, it's funny, as a farmer myself and knowing a lot of farmers, everything on our mind, you're not going to like this, but I still don't think cybersecurity has even hit our radar. And if it did, it hit it very quick during those, again, solar flares, and then not getting gas and one or two things. And then it goes away and we take it for granted. We're not, like, I would say if we're in manufacturing, it would be on our mind. I mean, it's standard operating, it's processes. Here's the thing too, the beauty and maybe the fallback of farming. So many of us are still independent. We're not part of co-op chains and all of that stuff, right? Here's the bad part with that, Kristin, is we're independent. So we don't think of that. We're not part of a corporation that has processes. I mean, I'm going to assume the chicken barns, the hog barns, the dairy barns might be working on this. But by and large, we don't think of this, right?
We found our episode on agroterrorism featuring the Animal Agricultural Alliance insightful. Here's another opportunity to explore more important conversations about our food system. And if you haven't already listened to that episode yet, I would highly recommend it. Speaking of important conversations, inspiration comes in countless forms. It's a thought, a conversation, a connection, a chain reaction. We never know exactly how inspiration will hit, but we do know this. When ideas and perspectives are shared across the table, they don't just add, they multiply. At the Animal Ag Alliance 2025 Stakeholder Summit, happening April 30th through May 2nd in Arlington, Virginia, hundreds of food chain partners will come together, tackle one of the biggest topics in the industry, sustainability. This year's theme, Food for Thought, Dishing on Sustainability. It's all about bringing together a diverse group of decision makers, from farms and ranches to restaurants and retailers, to discuss the future of how we raise and distribute animal protein. With a dash of innovation and a heaping serving of collaboration, the summit is where meaningful conversations happen, shaping the future of our food system for generations to come. Register by April 25th to reserve your seat at the table. For more details, visit animalagalliance.org or check out the link in the show notes. The product security people that listen to me get a little irritated, and I'm not picking on them. That's not the problem. I was giving a talk not that long ago at an operational technology conference, and I was actually talking about soybeans, and I was relating how soybeans are important to all of the industries because they touch all critical infrastructure, actually. It's fascinating. Soybeans are actually really cool. And some gentleman at the end of the QA was like, yeah, no, I'm never going to put security into my product because I'm not regulated to. And everybody started booing him. And I said, no. Thank you for your candor. I appreciate the fact that you're being real about this right now. And it really struck me as we need to have that conversation with farmers like yourself, because the products that you're buying and putting into your farm, whether that's a smart tractor, autonomous tractor, whatever other smart tech you feel like putting in, was not built with cybersecurity. It has no protection to help you. In fact, the manufacturer will not help you if you get hit. I mean, they might recommend somebody for you, but they won't necessarily help you, or they'll charge you. They'll charge you a service fee, whatever that might be, to come out. This is why it was so important for those tractors to get the right to repair, is because otherwise it was going to be really ridiculous. They have to hack into their tractor, essentially. Really, what's going to happen, we'll be just totally honest about it.
Yeah.
The reality of something on your farm, Tracy, getting hit is probably slim to marginal in terms of the equipment you use for your product, which would be the cows, cattle in general. But your house, your mobile phones, any of your email accounts, any of those are more susceptible to getting hit. The other part of this too is we all have a general idea what phishing is and what ransomware is because of the news and the media. Thankfully, the generations have passed enough that we all kind of get what that is. But what does it actually mean when it happens? Would you even know what's happening? Now they've started, the text message phishing, which is just brutal. I get hit with it too. And my parents actually send me screenshots when they get theirs to make sure that they're like, should I respond to this? I'm like, no, just delete it. Just delete it. If it's really something that's important, they'll get back to you, kind of thing. People just need to have a bit of a change of mindset of a healthy distrust for things. And I think farmers kind of already have that anyways, Tracy. I'm not picking on anybody. But you do have a healthy distrust of things around you because not everything that's happening is the reality of what's happening. And I think that's the fairness of what farming is a lot of times, where it might look like one thing, but it's totally not that thing. Or you might see an animal in distress and I would see it as the animal's fine. It's all about perception and perspective, right? And I think having a healthy distrust of the tech in your world is a good thing to have. The other portion of, besides just your personal tech for business and things like that, if you were on the same network as the equipment that's out, say in the field, and you got hit in the house, it would affect the equipment in the field because now that person has access to all of your stuff, right? Not just your smart devices, not just your laptop. They now can get to other things because most people have a flat network. And I don't necessarily need you to like put up another network for your industrial equipment. I mean, that would be preferable, but I'm not going to like make people do that. I understand that it's easier to just do it this way. But to me, who is that bad actor that's specifically going after your farm? Why? So is it someone who is a competitor of yours that wants to take you down? Possibly. Is it just someone who's trying to make money off of you? Probably, but maybe. Is it a nation state trying to test out whether our infrastructure is secure and they can start messing with it? Maybe. That's already been proven as a yes, but yes. Is it some radical extremist who doesn't like that you raise animals because they're radical vegans who want to come after your farm because they don't believe that we should be eating meat? Whatever your belief is, structure, I'm not picking on vegans at all. I was a vegan for 3 years, so I'm not going to stand here and tell you it's right or wrong. It's personal choice, but you don't have the right to tell anybody else what to do. People should be able to eat meat. Are those people hiring hackers to come in and do what I just described and then bullying and harassing the people that you love to give over credentials or to open gates or to give them dimensions of certain areas or how the layout of your systems work? Yes, that is happening in real time. And it's scary. And this is where like you have to have your government agencies come in and start really going after it, FBI, CIA type vibes, because these are organized and they're training people and how to do this, how to physically break into your places, how to work cameras, how to take control of cameras. Farm tours. I love farm tours. Okay. I really do. I think that they're some of the best ways to educate people and show them a place, and kids love them, obviously. And it's just a good way to show your brand off too, right? But the problem is that people who want to do harm and do this espionage and all this hacking and whatnot, physical entrance into physical security issues and things like that, are coming in and using the farm tours as recon. And they're taking pictures of where your cameras are. If you have your Wi-Fi password exposed anywhere, they're getting on your guest network, which is probably connected to another network. There's all these things that they're taking the system down just because they're preying on the good nature and the ability for the farmer to make a little extra money by charging for a farm tour, right? So what are you supposed to do? You're not supposed to have farm tours? No, you can have a farm tour. You just need to do it in a way that don't make it obvious when you have things around. Healthy distrust of your technology, right? So tuck things aside. Don't have serial numbers out. Cover them up with tape. You know, if anybody's acting suspicious, train your employees to understand if someone's like, hey, what's behind door number 1? You need to make sure that someone's there to make sure door number 1's locked, and also don't let anybody go into it, those kind of things. And also making sure that your chemicals are locked up, because that's one of the first things they go for. It's because think about all the different chemicals you have on a property, Tracy. I mean, you have enough to probably light a pretty good fire, you know what I mean? Or an explosion. And they know this too. So these people, not only do you have to worry about the mysterious hackers in the world, but now you have to worry about these people physically coming onto your property. And trust me, Tracy, I've heard stories that still haunt me to this day. And I will spare our listeners because some of my listeners have definitely heard this, but agroterrorism is a terrifying thing. And it is so messed up. And I hate the fact that they're hiring hackers to do this, hacking as a service. They're being backed by nation states that want to do harm to our countries. It's like movie stuff. It sounds movie-like when you talk about it, but it's really happening. And it's devastating. And the mental toll that it takes that you're being harassed like that, you already got enough problems as a farmer. Let's add this layer. This is messed up. So again, I'm not picking on vegans. I'm just saying these are the extreme radicalized ones that cult-like behaviors, and as well as people who just are animal activist groups. Again, fine, you can love animals all you want. Just don't release minks into the wild. They're not meant to be there, or, those kind of things. Or don't release cattle because you're going to get killed. Yeah. That's the thing.
Well, Kristin, can I jump in there really quick? When I talk to you, again, I like to think I'm well-read and intelligent. But when I sit here and listen to you talk about this, I feel like this innocent, naive, 13-year-old little girl going, what? People do this? I was laughing in my head when you were talking about farm tours and making sure you're covering things. I'm like, for Pete's sake, if I was giving farm tours and somebody asked me for my Wi-Fi password, I'd probably give it to them. Or you think of how many of these places, I'm not even naive, but you're like, okay, you're providing a service like a coffee shop. would any of these farm tour places just put the Wi-Fi password, thinking that people could log in and now have bandwidth to take videos for good? Oh my goodness, I'm not even naive. I'd like to say I lean towards skeptical. And I'm sitting here listening to you going, are we for real? Like, honestly. And I remember in our last episode with Andrew and yourself, you talked about even just putting smart fridges or the Roomba, like robots or coffee pots that are connected to the internet. Those can be hacked. That's what you said, right? Like that's
Yep. Kettles. Yeah. All the things, anything that can have a signal on it, Bluetooth or Wi-Fi or otherwise, is hackable. And I think that's how we probably need to start looking at things. If it connects to the internet in any capacity, you can hack it. I feel like that's a good way to talk about it. So to me, if you're going to put a giant Internet of Things or IoT device in your field, aka your tractor, do you understand all the implications that come from that? Where is it getting its updates from? Is it connecting to a satellite? Does it have automatic updates? Are you allowed to opt in and out of certain things? What about your privacy for your data? Because we all know data for farmers is super critical. Yields.
Yeah.
I'm sure all the cattle, I'm sure you need to know about weights and all these other things and how many you have at a time and things like that. Some of that stuff isn't necessarily meant for the public. And especially when it comes to seeds, where is all that data going? I mean, don't tell me it's air gapped because I don't want to hear that. But how are you protecting it? What are you doing to ensure that you can continue to keep that? Because this is one of those things. It's one of those things where I can't guarantee you're never going to have a cyber attack, right? It could happen. It could happen to me right now. It did happen to my product. We had an attack last year and I laughed because I was like, yes, I'm legit. People want to hack me. But it also reminded me that it doesn't matter how small you are, who you are. If you have a vulnerability, it will be exploited. And it was a nice reminder of maybe we need to all just start thinking about how it's going to happen. How do we want to survive it? Do we want to pay millions of dollars in ransom and cryptocurrency? Do you know how to get cryptocurrency? I don't know how to get cryptocurrency. Yeah. No idea. Do you have to hire a ransomware negotiator? That's expensive. I mean, that's a new job that's come up through this too. So the idea is to keep your resilience. That means you can keep your farm moving, even if you roll back to analog and you have to get on a horse, Tracy, and you can't ride your quads because they're internet connected for some reason, which I wouldn't be surprised if we're there yet. And, all those other things, can you continue to farm and keep your employees safe and keep yourself safe, keep your family safe when something like this is happening? What happens? Because you have no access to your bank. You have to change all your banks. All these things happen because you can't trust any data that's touched your network at that point. So if you've done banking on your computer that was attacked, you're going to have to go to your bank and talk to your bank about getting a new bank card, maybe new checks if people still write checks. Maybe you have to change your account number completely, and then you're going to have to update all your subscriptions or all of your, anything you've got going on at the feed store or all the other fun things that have to come in just automatically to your farm. What a pain in the ass. Who has time for that either? So the idea, again, is to understand all the ways that it could hurt you. And then let's talk about safeguards around that. And it's like I always tell people, it's like having a fire exit out of your house. I know that kind of takes me back to the firefighter thing, but I always know how I'm getting out of my house, wherever I am in my house. I have fire routes planned the moment I step in, and I won't, I'm grateful I'm only in a 2-story home because you can still jump out of a 2-story and probably hobble away. It's going to hurt, but it would happen. But it's those things, right? Like, do you have a fire extinguisher in your house? Yes. Do you know how to use it? Yes, of course I do. We probably should have another one for the garage too. How do you plan? Spray for bugs, those kind of things. You trap for bugs. Those rat traps are IoT as well, Tracy. I don't know if you know that. The ones you put around the farm. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Can I jump in? Because I want to do a real, bring it right home. An example you gave last time was, and I'm thinking of every farm family across the country doing this. So you have your home internet, because that's what we do. And the tractors are hooked up, the barn's hooked up, and the kids have a PlayStation. And they're hooked up. You said that's one of the biggest ways, and making it real. Okay, whatever on your computer, they shut down the GPS tractor. But here's another way. If your barn is automated, like a chicken barn, hog barn, dairy barn with fans, all that kind of stuff, and they hack it, they can shut down the power and kill all your barns. I'm just trying to make it real, because even talking about it, we're like, yeah, okay, whatever. We're not like factory line, but this is real. If any kind of automation and animals involved, they'll hack your barn and say, here's the goal, right? They'll say, if you don't give us this amount of money, we're shutting your power off. And then all your animals die because their needs, right? This is the real stuff.
And they'll take all your data and they'll throw it up on the dark web. So then, like I said, your bank account might be put out into the dark web.
Gotcha.
So, or more, personal information and things like that. Stuff you may not necessarily want out on the internet. You know what I mean? The other thing too is, you're right. Any of the barns in general that are hooked up, you will lose. You'll lose all of that. And I don't want to, because they vary in size, the idea of the amount of money you're losing, let alone the fact that you've now have an environmental issue because you have to get all those carcasses out and you've got to move them, is terrifying, right? Like, that's a nightmare. Like, that's a nightmare to think about. And I think that's the part that bothers me the most is when a cyber attack hits a farm, it's about loss of life, like generally speaking. And that's something that we don't necessarily deal with on security enterprise side. This is why the operational technology people that are listening to this right now are nodding their heads, because it's not about the data for us. It's about safeguarding lives. We can figure out the data part, right? We just want to make sure everybody's safe and healthy and can continue living their lives and can still manage to function after. It's also such a personal, intimate attack on a farm, because you're going after the basis of our lives, like our actual human existence. And you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot in a way, because it's like you're affecting the food system, dumbass. Like, that's what I think. Like, well, why would you do that? You're hurting yourself too. So it's one of those things. But yes, anything that's connected. And please don't hook your PlayStations up to your farm network, because they throttle at weird times. We actually were just updating ours the other day for one of the teenage boys, and it completely killed the internet for like 15 minutes. And I was like, I'm telling you, these things throttle. And you don't want a 15-minute lapse on your fans or your environmental controls self-feeding, or, I don't know, any of your milking process or anything like that. That would be miserable. I mean, sure, things would probably be all right, but would they be all right? So it's a lot to consider. And again, I think when shortages happen and people get confused and upset, they place their blame on things they just don't understand. And it frustrates me, because even people who in my world that know that what I do, and I'll be like, no, that sort of shortage was totally due to a cyber attack that happened a couple months back or whatever it was. And they were like, well, I'm just going to be upset at the grocery store. Okay. That makes sense to me. Sure. Be upset at the grocery store. And I think people, I know this sounds really daunting and it's really stressful, but the serious nature of it is it is manageable. I'm not going to say it's preventable. It's manageable. It's going to happen. It's just when and how are you going to deal with it? If you have cyber insurance, that helps. I'm not telling you to buy it or get it. That's a personal thing. I don't know your situation. I will never tell anybody to do something because I don't understand their situation completely, but it could help you in the long run. And I think making sure you stay educated and talk about things, even if it feels weird, being like, hey, what are you guys doing for your cybersecurity? Do you have a separate network for your farm, or are you just using it off the house? Like, what are you doing? Because you can set up an additional router. You can do things that help create at least a little bit of a separation or segmentation, if you will, to create space. So when something happens, it may not take down everything. You can isolate it quickly. Do you need to hire a cyber person for your farm? I don't know. Maybe if you're a huge farm. If you were a huge farm, maybe. But I don't think so. I think you could just have someone come in. I'm sure you have people that help you out with your IT systems. Same thing. The long run is just keeping up to date as much as you can. And the problem is, Tracy, there's not a lot of documentation out there. Nobody's really talking about this, I think. But again, if more people talk about it, if it happens, or if they're concerned about it, that's going to help continue to raise the buzz and the noise around it. Because we're just going to keep adding more tech. It's going to get more efficient and simpler. And they're going to try. People are like, oh, that AI is going to take my job. Probably, yes. But it will also free up for you to do something else. Would it be great if like little mundane things could be run by AI on a farm? I mean, whatever that would means for you, whether that's watering or fertilizer or feed or any of that stuff. It knows when the animals need this, that, and the other thing. Super great. That means you can go do what you need to do. Repair that fence you finally need to get done. Or I don't know, maybe take a vacation if you ever get a chance. So that's the kind of stuff that I think will be interesting coming up. So the other part is obviously how we're going to keep people to keep their farms. Let's make sure that they can get through that cyber attack, because that's a good way to sell your land real fast, because you're not going to be able to come up from the damage of that. Yes, it's not just $100,000 here or there. It's millions they want. And it's ridiculous. It's truly ridiculous.
I'm glad we're having this conversation again, because again, I'm going to say guilty as charged. I didn't know. We've chatted 3 times now. And even at that, Kristin, you're going to be so mad. We're going to hang up, I'll publish it, I'll carry on my merry way and forget about it. So we got to talk often because you're right. Nobody in the industry is talking about this. I see. And I mean, I am a big part of the media in Canadian agriculture. And I don't see a lot of this being talked about, right?
Yeah, and it's true. I really want to put pressure on the farm bureaus because they should really be having more of these conversations and really be helping with resource, because right now nobody knows what to do, and we're clearly seeing it happening more and more. You know, I talk about the big ones because those make more of an impact, but like the little farms in Switzerland, I had no idea. How did they get through that? You know, these are the questions I have, and I'm not going to like call up the farm being like, hey, how'd you survive that? Because that would be a really wild conversation.
I should. I'm sure they'd probably want to talk about it and vent about it. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's interesting. And even within the cyber community, food and ag is not really looked at unless it's like a producer in general. So if it is like a production line, like you said, but we're not protecting the whole supply chain, because we've got to deal with logistics. We've got to deal with cold storage. We've got to deal with warehousing. We have to deal with all the different types of transportation. We don't even touch on the seafood industry. Tracy, talk about a wild, wild west of agriculture. That everything on those boats is IoT connected or GPS connected. It's wild, like literally. And I'm no pun intended, I suppose. And hearing the stuff that happens there and the amount of data loss that they've had is, what are we doing? And then, you know, of course, so I go to apply to speak at these conferences and they're like, yeah, no, we don't want to talk about cybersecurity. Okay, it's cool. I don't mind.
Well, I mean, it's also scary. And part of me, I think I feel this way. And it's not you, Kristin. It's just the subject, because we know it's so near and dear to our hearts. But at the end, it's a little bit like overwhelming and very scary, because you know exactly what you just said, and people aren't in farmers' shoes. I mean, yes, it's our livelihood, and yes, it's the weird dichotomy of agriculture. Yes, our animals are being raised to be slaughtered for meat, but the thing people don't understand is we deeply care about those animals.
Yes.
It's a conversation that isn't had, and I don't think can even be understood by somebody that's not in agriculture. Just because they're going to be slaughtered and go for meat and pass away over here doesn't mean we are okay with them dying tragically over here. It's, to me, that goes without saying, but it's a weird conversation that's not had. So if I think of the dairy barns I've worked in, or I think of all my cows that I go out and look at every single day, if I showed up and they were all drop dead, the first thought would not be money. Just so you know, and I'm not saying that. I'm a very smart, savvy business person. I would be like, my cows. And it would literally be like, you'd want to puke. And then you'd be like, oh my God, what do we do? We're financially devastated. Yep. And then it would go back to, my God, my cows, they're all dead. And I don't even think anybody could understand, like, death. Sorry, this is going deep, but for your audience, and our audience gets this, for producers, I mean, we deal like hospitals. You deal with birth and death. Here on the animal side, we deal with birth and death. Even when we have one cow die, it's like, and I feel a heaviness. I don't think people could understand how much a barn full of dead animals would affect us mentally, long before financially, and the mental health that would impact us, right? I just wanted to say that because that's a weird conversation to try and even broach. And I keep on going back when you're talking about data. We're not data heavy and that automated, but we're not that kind of farm. So when you keep on talking about data, not to be mean, but I'm like, Kristin, I don't care about data. I care about my barn of animals that die. Data, whatever. Dairy barns, chicken barns, they need that. But at the end of the day, I think to every producer that actually works with the animal, the data isn't even the concern. I mean, bank accounts and hacking, but the animals. Anyway, sorry for my tangent there.
No, and I think that's such a valid point, because the data still is important, because if they can access the data and it affects the life of the animals, then that's the problem, right? Then that becomes an issue. I also think that the general public is so far removed from the food that they eat that they only see the birth and the death, right? They don't understand what it takes to raise these animals and how long. I was recently sitting on a call a month or so ago with a rancher out in Colorado. And she was explaining to me like the life of a cow and what the whole life cycle looks like. And for some reason I had in my head something entirely different, like longer lifespan or something. No, it's fast. It's fast. And not like so fast that it's ridiculous, but it's definitely was a lot quicker than I expected it to be. And I was like, and how many are you moving? And it's a large operation. And just listening to the story of that was just like, oh my goodness, even me who's on the peripheral on this anyways and in it a little bit, I was like, I'm dumb too. Like there's a lot of things, Tracy, I'm still learning. Like I didn't know other things, but one thing I did laugh about though, and this is sort of off subject on subject, I said, I got really excited when because I rode horses when I was younger. So I understand some of the whole horse culture. I'm not like epic at riding. I'm okay. But at least I knew what a cutter horse was. And we were on a call and someone was talking about like, hey, you keep talking about cutters. What's a cutter? And I was like, I thought it was a normal common thing. Everybody knew what a cutter horse was. And I was like, really? You don't know what that is? And I'm not going to tell everybody here. I will put it in the show notes. You can look it up. But that to me is such a whole other side of the industry that you have this equestrian side that's helping raise these cattle too. And I understand, obviously you guys are on quads, but like, I know you respect that because damn, that's an insane amount of work. And also those horses are expensive. But yeah, so I mean, if anything ever happened to these animals because of a cyber attack, I can't imagine the outrage. Like I said, the Switzerland one, because they lost a pregnant cow and the calf, both of them passed because they had this hack. I mean, that's ridiculous. And granted, it was 1.5 really, but that's enough. That's still enough. And I think the mental toll and the fact that the hackers are already I shouldn't say good. They're so bad at being bad actors, I should say, are good at being bad actors, that they prey on the social engineering aspect and they prey on our feelings and our emotions to stress us out, to make us do the wrong thing, make us select something to do the other things. But what if they start really working even more diligently with these activists? And what if they really start pouring into these farms and really start getting into the situations and make it really a questionable safety issue on top of hurting these animals? What if they start releasing cattle? Oh my God. Not only that is a safety hazard, obviously, but it's a pain. Like that's a pain. I would assume having to move a certain amount of animals back into where they need to be. It takes a lot of people and it takes time. People don't realize how big these animals are because again, they're so far removed from their food. They don't understand. I was having a conversation with someone recently asking me the difference between a bull and a heifer. And I was like, you don't know what that is? And again, I was like, I thought this was common. Maybe I'm just oblivious to what's common and what's not because I didn't realize that people didn't know what that was. And it was really funny because I was like, how do you not know where your food comes from? Oh, okay.
People think the word cow describes everything within a cattle farming operation. And why should they know, really? I mean, we are in it. You're in it. You were introduced it. But when you're taught in school, you see cow, you see pig, you see sheep. So you don't know that there's a bull, a heifer, a steer, a calf, and then you do the horse versions of that. They don't know. But, when we're talking, I'm like, I always hate when somebody's like, yeah, but the positive. But I'll do that. I'll be like Sally Little Sunshine here for a second, which I don't love when people do that. But isn't it beautiful that people can be so well fed, so cheaply fed, so ignorant of how everything magically appears on those grocery stores? What a testament to actually how amazing our food industry is.
It really is.
Sally Sunshine. But when we're talking about that, I'm like, what a beautiful world that we get frustrated by how ignorant people are. But it's actually, on the flip side, a beautiful thing that they can just eat their food, be happy for the most part, and we're all good. Except for in all the situations that you know about.
I think the blissful ignorance is a privilege. It's privilege, right? Because we don't have to slaughter our own food necessarily unless we choose to. We don't have to hunt unless we choose to. Survival is different. I think that's the beauty of the modern world. And I think people forget how convenient it is and how the things that power our modern world are very much vulnerable and at risk and fragile, and they need to be protected. That includes farms, that includes farming lifestyle, that includes everything to do with that. And that's where my frustration lies, is I'm trying to make sure you continue to be blissfully ignorant and live your best life in this modern world that we live in. Because, of whatever reason, we deserve to be here. Whatever, it's the work of your family prior or just your life. Why aren't we doing more to protect it? We're just kind of like basics or not even paying attention to it. And then we just move on. And that upsets me. And I'm not picking on anybody in the farming community in general for not securing your Wi-Fi or whatever. That's not my journey with you right now, but it's more of the fact that the security communities and the people who are in critical infrastructure and those who are making laws and policies and all these other fun things that go alongside all this, it's just like crickets. Nobody's doing really anything. That's upsetting to me because we all eat. I mean, that's what it is. And that's actually what connects us as human beings. We all eat and we all celebrate and have culture and do the same things. And in that regard, and you would think that would bring us together more as a common world citizen vibe. But I realize that we have a lot of differences and things and such. But again, that's where my frustration lies. Not to just crush your sunshine, but you're totally right. But also there's responsibility in that. Please, can we pay attention?
I totally get it and crush my sunshine because I absolutely in conversation hate when somebody's sharing something serious and then they try and demean it and it just kills the tone. And I find it disrespectful. And I did it, but I'll come back to being tampered down Tracy here, realistic. I mean, we share all the same concerns. And can I share one last story with you? I'm glancing at social media. We're farmers. We have created an amazing food front end of the food production system. It's fast, it's cheap, it's affordable. Sally on the farm or Sally in the city doesn't have to go and kill a chicken to eat fried chicken tonight. We take this for granted. One prime example, your end of the frustration, what you said, we're producers creating very clean, nutritious food. Cheap, efficient. The homesteading movement has been a big thing. People are moving out. And don't get me wrong, it's a beautiful life. I get why they're doing it. But I'm listening to this girl, no disrespect, a big sob post about how hard homesteading is. And I'm going to sound a little condescending. I'll be okay, well, hun, there's a reason we don't homestead anymore. My grandpa and grandma lived like you're trying to live. They lived in poverty. They had to milk a cow. They had to kill their pet chickens. We went through that and we have progressed so far that you don't need to do that. And you're complaining about milking your cow. We're farmers. We have cows. We don't milk them. We go to the grocery store and buy it because it's safe, nutritious, cheap, inspected, clean. And I'm not saying farm milk is bad. Not my argument. Won't go there.
Nope.
But I'm
Agreed.
People, I just about commented and said, why don't you make your life easier and go to the store and buy your milk? Do yourself a favor, hun. I'm a farmer. We do it. Why don't you just buy some of the privileges of the world that we live in? And I get it, and I'll probably get hated on, but that's another one of our frustrations as farmers. We've come so far to make it easy and safe for you guys, but you want to milk your own cow and do a million other things? Holy Dinah, my grandma would be yelling at you from the grave.
Yeah, it's such a weird thing. It's kind of going back to the idea of it's extremes, right? You don't need to go to one extreme or to the other. You can have a middle ground, right? And you can still have a gentleman's garden, if you will, or a victory garden, or whatever you want to call it, in your backyard and grow your tomatoes. Cool. If you want to do that, go ahead. If you want to have chickens, go have chickens. Totally. Nobody's telling you not to have chickens. If you want to have a cow, go for it. I don't necessarily like the idea of having a small pet cow in your house, but if you want to do that too, go for it. If you want to be a person who makes all their own bread, cool. I'm happy for you. I might even come over and have a slice, but I don't want people to go to the extreme where they start to have mental health issues because they have to go milk the cow at 2 a.m. or whatever. They have to get up and do it. Yeah. And honestly, cows aren't milked by hand mainly at all. Not really at all. I mean, unless you have a small farm and that's just your thing. That's what's happening. But they're all milked by machines in a very big circle. It's one of those things. Yeah, I get really frustrated with this, this whole social movement around the agricultural community because a lot of it's a lie. You know this too. But I will tell you, and somebody was pointing out, they're like, oh, farmers and like ranchers aren't on like LinkedIn and social media. I said, yes, they are. It's some of the best content out there. Hello. Yeah. I mean, I love reading about whatever's going on a farm. Because to me, it helps me like relax. And it's, really one of those things where, it reminds me to be grateful for the food that's in my life and what's happening. And I think that's the best part, is being reminded of where our food comes from and how lucky we are, like you said, to be in a place that's, we don't have to think about it. There's no seasons at the grocery store. And sure, we can have an argument that like we're destroying the entire planet and all these other things, but it is the most complicated system on the planet, is the food system, the distribution and everything. And now hackers are exploiting it. And that's something that I'm intolerant of. And I think everybody should be upset about that, because we all should be able to eat. And that's the thing.
I love your passion for it. I love it. I love when
Thanks,
people
Tracy.
are good at what they do and what they're passionate and they care. You and I have talked about this. I have the same mission for farmers and mental health and business and transition. And you have your mission in your world too, right?
Yeah, it's true. And I hope that, my contribution in some way will make a difference in the long run. I would like to be able to say that we can continue to have this lifestyle and have a healthy respect for it. And that's what I would really like to see, for sure. But Tracy, we've been talking for quite a while, so we probably should wrap this up.
Wow, what a conversation. Thank you, Kristin.
This has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much, as always. Hello to your audience again. Love Canada. Everybody knows that. You guys are the best. And if I ever can be of help to anyone, please reach out. And obviously, if anyone wants to talk more about farming and all kinds of succession planning and what it means to raise a bunch of cattle, Tracy's available. And please do check out her stuff. Everything's going to be in the show notes. We will link all the things. But anyways, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Kristin. You're a gem. Thanks, guys.
That's it for today's episode. A huge thank you to Tracy for sharing her time, insight, and voice with us, and for hosting this conversation as a sister episode on the Impact Farming Show. If you haven't checked out her podcast yet, make sure you do. There's a link waiting for you in the show notes. And to all of you listening, thank you for being here. If this episode sparks something for you, go ahead, like, comment, and share it with someone else who needs to hear it. Stay safe, stay curious, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.